I make them spend money on stuff they need to spend money on, and then they go, oh God, now I need to make money again. And then they start getting hungry again. Some of you need to get hungry again in your business. You need to get aggressive again in your business, and you need to decide what your next goal is.
Hey, my name's Kilgore Trout, and today's video answers the question, is capitalism just one big pyramid scheme? If you're new to my channel, welcome! Be sure to join my downline by hitting subscribe.
Because if you don't, you're just going to be a watcher. You're not going to be a winner. So, take a chance on yourself. Join my team.
I cover a pretty wide variety of topics on this channel, but most of them center around anti-capitalism. I don't know if you've heard, but capitalism's kinda stinky. So yeah, I'm pretty biased, but just remember, if you like capitalism, that it's very healthy to think critically about the things we participate in. I spend a lot of my free time watching anti-MLM content, which stands for anti-multi-level marketing. A multi-level marketing company, aka direct sales, network marketing, social selling, is basically just a pyramid scheme, except it's deemed legal for reasons. The thing is, if you listen to enough 2-hour Zoom calls where someone shills their pyramid scheme to lonely moms, you start to realize that there sure are a lot of similarities between a scammy business model and the American dream. And I like to think of myself as the foremost expert on this overlap because I know a lot of people who are very passionate about anti-MLM, and I know a lot of people who are very passionate about anti-capitalism, but I don't know any anti-MLM people who hate capitalism as much as me, which makes me the champion. I win the title.
You're building a platform based on hate that tears down other women for trying to make a difference in the world.
So, as the #1 professor in this niche, I'm going to break it down for you. And you can trust me because besides my completely optional Patreon, I have nothing to sell you. Well, except the general feeling that life is absurd and meaningless and there's nothing we can do about it, but talking about it's kind of fun, so let's give that a try. The purpose of this video is to take a critical look at our economy and our culture and to see how similar our daily grind is to a fraudulent scam.
Basically you start at the bottom, you show up 40 hours a week, no matter how hard you work, sometimes it's still not enough.
However, it's also a deep dive into the world of MLMs, and if you like anti-MLM content, you're gonna love this video. This is going to be extremely long and very dense, so I want to share how I'm going to break this video down with you, and there's also going to be timestamps below if you want to jump around. First, we're going to break down capitalism and anti-capitalism, and please know that I am not pushing any specific alternatives in this video like socialism or communism. Instead, I'm just critiquing capitalism and focusing on its sociological outcomes. Then we're going to take a look at what pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing companies are and their distinctions. Then I'm going to cover how MLMs have evolved from the early days of Amway and the legislation surrounding that, all the way up to today because the pandemic has made things even worse. Then I'm going to compare capitalism to pyramid schemes to see if capitalism really is just one big mega MLM. Finally, I want to spend a few minutes talking about how realizing that capitalism isn't amazing can lead people down a dark and vulnerable path. And when you experience financial hardship or social isolation, scammers will be waiting to prey upon you. And I want to leave you with some helpful tips to avoid falling victim to these traps. I don't think this video will really solve anything, but I still think it's a valuable conversation to have, and if you're in an MLM currently, you might learn some things about the history of this industry that your upline left out when they pitched you this amazing opportunity. And throughout the video, I will be adding clips of real MLM distributors, and I will be blurring their faces because this isn't to embarrass these specific people, even though some of the stuff they do is very entertaining and cringy, but I personally believe that they're victims not only of the MLM industry, but victims of capitalism as a whole. So, okay, cue the title card. Now, I know you're smart, and you know what capitalism is, because you live it every single day. But just so we're on the same page, here is the first line of the Capitalism Wikipedia article. Capitalism is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Okay, pretty simple. Someone, invests in tools or machinery or land, and then uses that private property to make a profit. This profit will hopefully pay back that initial investment, and then keep making them a profit. Usually this is done by paying wages to workers who do not own any share of the operation. The worker earns a static wage, while the earning potential for the owner and the investors goes up based on the market. But don't worry, this video is not about economics. Yes, capitalism is an economic system, but it's also a cultural system, or as I like to call it, a cult for short.
There are all sorts of people who want to break your faith. Sometimes they're in your own family. And sometimes they're just so-called good friends who think you're crazy for doing what you're doing.
Now, the privatization of the means of production goes way back in history, but our modern system of capitalism is relatively new. There were a couple industrial revolutions, and I don't think it's any coincidence that there was a major shift in how Americans worked that happened right around the time slavery was abolished. Of course, it's a great thing that slavery was abolished, but it's not like that was replaced with some super fair, equitable system, right? The bar was pretty low. The bar was slavery. Now, this new economic system changed how we work, but it also changed how wealthy people could invest. There's an episode of Crash Course where John Green talks about the shift from merchant trade and slavery to industrial capitalism. And he says this.
Okay, for our purposes, capitalism is also a cultural system rooted in the need of private investors to turn a profit. So the real change needed here was a change of mind. People had to develop the capitalist values of taking risks and appreciating innovation. And they had to come to believe that making an upfront investment in something like a stand machine could pay for itself and then some.
And I thought, wow. That fits my narrative perfectly. I'm going to steal that, because that's really it. It isn't just an economic system, it's a mindset. Developing those capitalist values, like he said, and making an upfront investment could pay for itself and then some. It's why capitalists love to talk about risk, because they've convinced themselves that risk and suffering and struggle are good things.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of potential income is gonna fly right past you onto somebody else who's ready to feel the fear and do it anyways.
One last thing is that there are different types of capitalism. The United States has what we could call a mixed market economy and maybe some democratic capitalism. This means that there's a fair bit of government involvement in the market, but overall, our local, state, and federal economies are based largely on privatization for profit. You'll hear people talk about free market capitalism, aka laissez-faire, but don't worry, that isn't relevant because it doesn't exist, okay? And if they bring up the Gilded Age, just ask them why the free market capitalist robber barons were accepting federal subsidies and land grants if there was zero government involvement in economics. And yes, our current economic system allows the government to be involved in economics. However, corporations and the stock market also have a huge amount of influence on politics. So I think that that's important to point out. Okay, that's enough. I'm so bored of talking about capitalism. Let's briefly discuss anti-capitalism so we can get to the fucking fun part, which is the pyramid schemes. Anti-capitalism is basically just people critiquing capitalism. More specifically, it's about looking at the shortcomings of capitalism and asking, if this is such a great system, why do all these problems still exist? For example, if capitalism is such a great system, why are so many people homeless? Now, most capitalists will simply brush past this and say something about how the homeless didn't work hard enough or something drug addiction. The fucked up truth is that things like homelessness existing are the counterbalance in their equation that make things like risk a positive value to hold.
I promise you, being broke and not being able to feed your kids and living paycheck to paycheck for the next 40 years is much more frightening than any of the things that you are afraid of about this business.
Whereas anti-capitalists would ask the question, is there a better way we could allocate resources so that everyone has their most basic needs met? What's the point of being the greatest, richest nation on earth if people can't even live indoors or see a doctor? It's embarrassing, honestly. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to become a socialist or a communist. You can come to your own conclusions. However, if you are a capitalist or you're pro-capitalism, please, I have one thing to ask you. Educate yourself on the definitions of terms like socialism, communism, liberal, and leftist, because y'all throw those terms around a lot and it makes you sound really fucking stupid.
Mark my words. Mark my words. The only two options moving forward, number one is huge corporation where you make $15 an hour. You scrape by, you sit at home crying. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to feed my kids? Socialism. That's option number one. Communism.
They mean different things, and they're not all interchangeable, okay?
If you order Uber, you are contributing to communism. Just FYI. Never ordered Uber in my life, never fucking plan on it.
Anyways, this video is meant to ask if capitalism is just one giant pyramid scheme, so let's learn about those now. Hi, name! Welcome to this exclusive seminar. If you're here today, it's because someone you know invested in our pyramid scheme. What's a pyramid scheme, you might be asking? Just sit back and relax while we explain this life-changing opportunity. The dictionary definition of a pyramid scheme goes like this: legal form of investment in which each paying participant recruits two further participants, with returns being given to early participants using money contributed by later ones. What? What do all these words mean? I know it's a little confusing, so let's get some visuals to help you out. Here's you at the top, investing $5,000 to join the program. In return, you'll receive our free training program for $5,000. Now, in order for you to make your investment back, you need to recruit at least 2 new people, who will each pay $5,000 for our free program. Every time someone joins underneath you, you get half of their $5,000. The other half goes to your upline. And now that you have a downline, anytime they recruit someone, you get a kickback. Infinite money, all with our easy free training program starting at just $5,000. And believe me, I did it too. When I started with this, I was doing my dishes in the bathtub. Just remember, the higher you are to the top of the pyramid, the more money you make. So what are you waiting for? Act now before the pyramid fills up. What are you waiting for? Okay, so that's the basic way that a pyramid scheme works. There are lots of variations, and sometimes Ponzi schemes are included in the term, but this was just a quick overview of a hierarchical investment scam. They typically don't last long because once people stop getting a return on that investment, everyone drops out and the whole thing crumbles. But a few guys at the top get away with a ton of cash. Okay, so how is a multi-level marketing company different from a pyramid scheme? Well, it's more or less the same setup, except instead of money being passed back and forth in the form of an investment, there's a product. Here's an example. There's a hot new product called Tupperware. Have you heard of it? It isn't sold in regular old department stores. Instead, your friend hosts a party where she's selling some of the products. Now, if you buy Tupperware from her at her party, she makes a tiny little bit of money. But what she really wants is to get you to sign up to sell Tupperware in her downline. That way, she makes money off her sales and your sales. She's invested in getting you to believe what an amazing opportunity selling Tupperware is. Even if she hasn't made a profit, she's inclined to lie to herself and others, with the hope that this might eventually become profitable.
Now I was sad when she left me. I thought she didn't care until I find out my dolly was out selling Tupperware. Hey, dolly, don't go away again.
Since an MLM is essentially a pyramid scheme with a product, it's also mandatory that the distributors keep purchasing those products, even if they aren't making any money yet. MLM sellers are known to have a room in their house full of dusty, expired products that they can never seem to get rid of. There's usually a very confusing compensation plan that pays sellers a little bit for product sales and a lot for recruiting new members. And since this business model is legal, that means these companies can exist for much longer than an illegal pyramid scheme would last. Even when, year after year, the companies release what's called an income disclosure statement that reveals that, something like 98% of the people involved in the company barely make any money, maybe a couple $100s a year. And that's not including the fact that they had to buy thousands of dollars in product to stay active. Another important thing is that the FTC states that if the MLM is not a pyramid scheme, it will pay you based on your sales to retail customers without having to recruit new distributors. Basically, it's saying an MLM, you can just sell the product and never recruit a single person. In a pyramid scheme, you would have to recruit new people to ever make money. And while that sounds good and all, it should be pointed out that in almost every single MLM, it is quite literally impossible to move past the first rank without a team of people below you. And according to just about every single company's income disclosure statements, people at the first rank simply do not gross more than a couple $100s of income per year. So it's kind of a fucked up loophole if you ask me.
So if you've been called to do something in your life and you know it, but you're struggling and you're like, dang, but why? This sucks. Why is this happening? Because it's normal. And because God loves you.
By the way, in the form of sources, I will be adding screenshots if you want to pause and read them, but please know that all my sources are linked in the description below if you want to do more reading. Additionally, I have linked some of my favorite anti-MLM channels below if you want to dive into that world some more, but be warned, you might get addicted. So just to reiterate, an MLM is like a pyramid scheme, except instead of investing one time and then quickly realizing that you're never getting that money back, an MLM has people invest over and over and over again, with their sales quotas and personal volume requirements resetting every single month, keeping them in the business for years. And I know what you're thinking. Kelgore, that makes MLMs seem worse than a pyramid scheme. Yes. All right, so why the frick is it legal then? To answer that, we have to go back in time. Back in time. Back in time. Back in time. Good evening. It's the late 1970s, so you know that this man is Walter Mondale, Jimmy Carter's vice president. Now, currently, Vice President Mondale is doing his very best to outlaw pyramid schemes on the federal level. In the rare instance that the Supreme Court takes down an organization for being an illegal pyramid scheme, it's on counts of fraud or deception. Meanwhile, individual states are developing their own anti-pyramid scheme laws. However, whether or not these laws will be enforced is another story entirely, which is why we here at the News believe consumer education is of the utmost importance. These scams evolve constantly, and it can be quite difficult for the regular person to understand all the legalities. And the few times these organizations are taken down for being an illegal pyramid scheme, it's after they've operated as one for years. What's more concerning is that oftentimes these organizations will simply pay a fine and then continue operation. My question is why? Why are we like this? Who hurt us? Well, the simple answer is Dick. Dick DeVos, that is. This man is Richard DeVos Sr., who we have to thank for a lot of this. With the help of his business partner, Jay Van Andel, Richard DeVos Sr. started the company known as Amway in 1959. Amway quickly became one of the largest direct sales companies, and they've just won a case that decided they are not a pyramid scheme. The court ruled that a few of their conditions, like their inventory buyback program and their sales requirements, deemed this a legitimate business. However, others are saying that Amway won the case for different reasons, specifically bribery, lobbying, and corruption. Now, for those of you watching this in the future, it is true that the DeVos family has given away hundreds of millions of dollars to Republican politicians and organizations. And yes, Richard DeVos Sr. is the father of Dick DeVos, who will go on to marry future Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, who can suck the shit out of my asshole. Anyways, many people believe that being extremely well-connected will help Amway set the legal precedent for multi-level marketing companies in America. And looking forward to 1984, Jay Van Andel, the co-founder of Amway, will go on to become the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Fuck the Chamber of Commerce. And then in 1984, this will happen, and needless to say, Walter Mondale will be having a very bad year. No surprises here, but future President Reagan will not be helpful in this situation. However, there will be some new cases in the 1990s that will help refine some of those anti-pyramiding legal precedents. The FTC will even be quoted saying, "Pyramid schemes will come back with a vengeance. Like most economic activity, fraud occurs in cycles, and new pyramid schemes will exploit a new generation of consumers and entrepreneurs that had not witnessed the pyramid problems of the 1970s. That's all for our report. Back to you. Fraud does occur in cycles, and I've made a couple videos on the topic of MLMs in the past where I discuss, how poverty plays a role in their popularity. In fact, one of the first videos I ever posted on this channel was called MLMs Are Never Going Away, and if you can get past the terrible editing and the fact that I sound like I'm giving a fucking book report, it's a pretty informative video about how the DeVos family and other MLMs lobby the US government, which is something we don't learn very much about in most mainstream anti-MLM videos, and I wish it was. If you're an anti-MLM creator, first of all, hey, I love you. Please consider making more deep dives into how individual companies or the DSA spend their lobbying dollars. I'm begging you. So, this brings us to the recent history of MLMs during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you had to guess, do you think millions of Americans getting laid off from their jobs, feeling insecure about their future, and becoming isolated from the world has had a positive or negative impact on network marketing?
Let's not forget there are people struggling to pay their bills. Let's not forget that there are businesses being burnt down. Let's not forget that there are people that no longer have a place to go and get a job, right? And, in this time, is that the time? Is that the time to take your solution? Is that the time to take your solution and say, no, I'm not going to share it with anyone. No, I'm not going to tell anybody because I'm being sensitive. I'm being sensitive here.
Unfortunately, the shitstorm of the past 2 years has been a boon for this industry. Sure, the anti-MLM movement is stronger than ever, which is incredible, but sadly, these companies are still raking in money. Certain big companies like Monat seem like they might be starting to crumble, but when one disappears, another takes its place. Plus, these companies are masters of adaptation, which we've seen with how they've sort of incorporated crypto into a lot of their schemes. They're in a constant state of flux, and since their main customers are the sellers themselves, they have to keep changing their products and systems. This keeps sellers too preoccupied to think about how much money they've dumped into the scheme. Also, when people believe in certain things, for example, conservative politics, the American dream, Christianity, it's that much easier for MLMs to prey upon them. For the past 5 or 10 years, every single thing we do has been highly politicized, from the foods we eat to the brands we buy. Everything has these political undertones.
That's what they want. The guys at the top, the 11 new billionaires that were made during this planned demic, those 11 new billionaires, they want you to sit at home. They want you to sit at home in a communist situation where you are dependent on them for every fucking thing that you need.
And this has created a very palpable us versus them mentality within these organizations. So when friends or family members oppose a loved one buying into an MLM scheme, the MLM comes prepared to exploit this divide and isolate the new member. just like a cult or a manipulative partner would. MLMs have shifted their entire operation to Zoom, Instagram, voice notes, and constant texting. This keeps members on task because they are quite literally being watched by their uplines, who are heavily incentivized to keep their teams intact.
We do not launch our businesses on the first of the month. We do not launch our businesses on the first of the year. We make the decision to launch our businesses every single day.
MLMs are a very transient industry. A lot of people just try for 1 or 2 months and then disappear. But if you can keep someone in by emotionally manipulating them, your team is going to be a lot stronger. The pandemic has made pretty much everything worse. But the adaptability of network marketing has allowed these companies to take every downside of the pandemic and turn it into a way to recruit. So, I am here to ask if capitalism is a pyramid scheme. But I have to be able to parse that from the fact that, of course, pyramid schemes are capitalist. So I can't just sit here and list the capitalist things that pyramid schemes do. I have to do the inverse of that. I hope that makes sense. It means I have to find the MLM-like characteristics about capitalism. But there is a huge overlap, so it's hard. One of the most insidious parts about pyramid schemes and MLMs is that they're very well camouflaged in our capitalist system. Oftentimes, while recruiting people, they're disguised as sales or influencer marketing or gig work or as a simple investment. Later, it's revealed that it is in fact direct selling, and usually by that point, victims have already bought in. So how do we tell the difference? I found this resource from the FTC to help people identify a pyramid scheme. A good friend of mine is going to go through each point and ask if these apply to capitalism. If they do, I think we could argue that capitalism is a pyramid scheme.
This meeting is being recorded.
Woo! Hey! How is everybody doing today? Oh my God, what a week this has been. All right, I'm just going to wait for everybody to get in the chat. Meanwhile, I'm just going to kind of get my stuff together. I have some notes here. We have something very important to talk about. Oh my God. Okay, so sorry I'm late, by the way. This has been probably one of the worst weeks of my life. And a crazy day. And I either had to, I had an oil treatment in my hair, and then I had to either figure out, do I want to wash the oil treatment out and look presentable on my live, or do I want to eat breakfast? So obviously I chose to do my hair. So I haven't eaten anything. Luckily, oh my God. Luckily we have our new Super Fizz. I freaking love it. Oh, it's everything. So, hi, Jasmine. Hey, Kaylinifer. Hi. Hope I'm saying that right. Okay, so, wow. Which flavor? So today I'm having the Banana Caesar Super Fizz. If you guys have not tried this, oh my God. Actually, drop a banana emoji in the chat if you have not had the Banana Caesar flavor yet, because there's actually a special going on right now. There's a flash sale. It's 5 for $100, which is like an insanely good deal. And there's actually a double incentive program going on. I'm not going to get into it right now. I can contact you after the live about this. You guys might already know about it. Everybody loves the Banana Caesar flavor. It's amazing. You'll have so much energy. It totally like detoxes you too. Like you will not want to eat. It'll clean you out both ends, all the things. So anyways, yeah, flash sale, drop a banana emoji below, and let's get going on this call. Before we get into this call, let me just preface this by saying you're always going to have people in your life that do not agree with this business. Okay? Always. As some of you know, there's been kind of a lot of drama this week, and the company has addressed this. I will not be addressing it. So don't ask. If you ask, you will be blocked. Basically though, all you need to know is that there's something called the Federal Trade Commission. They're in charge of like business and stuff in the United States. And they reached out to me this week, and it's kind of sad, because to me, it's like crystal clear that they are 100% jealous. And you guys know me, you know, I do not let the haters keep me down, but it's the same thing we've heard a million times. This is a pyramid scheme. No, it's not a freaking pyramid scheme. Sorry, my language. My kids are not home, don't worry. So, yeah, we've all heard it. We've all talked about it. We've all gotten a million DMs. Oh, you're in a pyramid scheme. I'm not in a pyramid scheme. This is a multi-level marketing. This is network marketing. This is just like affiliate marketing. It's an investment. It's a business. You're a business owner. Anyways, so they sent me this, and I'm trying to share my screen. Bear with me. I am like so bad with tech. Okay, so it's right here. Can you guys see this? Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see this. Okay, so it's 4 warning signs of a pyramid scheme, and they're saying that we are in violation of all these things. I'm sorry. I'm selling Super Fizz to women who want to get healthy. I'm not doing a pyramid scheme. But I read through these, and you know what? You know what I realized? We're not a pyramid scheme. You know what is? Capitalism. Capitalism is the real pyramid scheme. Going to a 9 to 5 is the real pyramid scheme. So we're going to go through these points that they say that this business is in violation of, and we're actually going to ask ourselves if they also apply to capitalism. Yeah. How do you like that? So, as some of you guys know, when I began this journey, I was not doing good. I was on food stamps. I was on WIC. I was living in my grandmother's basement. I was doing my dishes in the bathtub. Okay, that's how poor I was. That's how fat I was. And now, look at me. I'm a glowing, skinny queen. Okay? This business did that. Okay? So let's talk about these points from the FTC. Number 1, promoters make extravagant promises about your earning potential. Now, we all know about income claims. We can't do it. But do you know who does? Capitalism. Let me give you some examples. I have some notes here. Give me 1 sec. Have you ever seen, a promoter of capitalism promise you that if you do certain things in life that you'll become rich? I would say definitely yeah. All my life, I've been told if I work hard, if I go to college, if I get a good job, if I invest, then I'll become rich. I can leverage my entrepreneurial spirit. Oh my God, I just totally, what just came out of my mouth? Blah. I can leverage my entrepreneurial spirit. I've been told this by parents, teachers, friends, bosses, society, even like movies and songs. It's all about rags to riches. And I'll tell you what, I tried, and it did not work until I joined this business, okay? And now I'm making 7 figures a month selling Super Fizz. Do that with your cubicle. Okay, number 2. That one was too easy, oh my God. Number 2, promoters emphasize recruiting new distributors for your sales network as the real way to make money. Now, we all know that the real way to make money in this business is to support others, to bring others in, to pour into them. Because when you pour into them, you're pouring Super Fizz into them, okay? But you're also creating residual generational wealth. Let's talk about capitalism now. What does capitalism do? Do you have to recruit new distributors in capitalism? Obviously, this is not the case for like every job, right? Like if I wanted to become a successful author, I don't have to recruit you to become an author too, just so I can make money. But I can think of like a lot of examples where this does happen. Like say you open a store, you open your own store. It's a lot like what I do, owning my own business. But anyways, you open a store and You're working all day, long hours. You're the only one that works there. You're doing the cash register, you're restocking the shelves, you're doing the accounting, all the things. And, you know, after you pay your lease and pay for all the stuff, you're gonna realize that you're not really making that much money at the end of the day. And so what are you gonna do? You're gonna hire a teenager to come work the cash register. And then that way you can restock the shelves, you can manage the store, you can do the accounting, you can do all the things. And then after that, hire another teenager. And boom, now you're paying a couple $100s a week to these teenagers, minimum wage, and you're able to stay open longer. You're open every single day of the week. You're able to bring in more business because you recruited new members. It's called the surplus value of labor. Ever heard of it? Yeah, it's capitalism. It's not a pyramid scheme, it's capitalism. So it's the same thing. It's scaling your business, okay? You have to get people below you to do the work. You have to delegate. This is a huge thing we've talked about before. We talk about this all the time. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I feel like I'm going crazy. Okay. So, like, can you really make that much money with a grocery store if you don't recruit new employees? No, it's the same thing. And meanwhile, you're going to make more income over time as the business owner. And are the employees going to? No, but you're going to be heralded as like this small business owner with a heart of gold. But I'm a scammer. I'm sorry, it's the same thing. Really sounds familiar, at least. Okay, so I just feel like 9-to-5s are the real pyramid scheme, and capitalism is the real pyramid scheme, and this is financial freedom. Okay, anyways, sorry, I'm getting a little bit worked up. I've had 3 of these today. Trying to get rid of them. So drop a 1 in the chat if you agree with me that capitalism is the real pyramid scheme. Number 3, let me share my screen. Promoters play on your emotions or use high pressure sales tactics, maybe saying you'll lose the opportunity if you don't act now, and discouraging you from taking time to study the company. First of all, it's about messy action. Okay, it's taking messy action. I don't know what all this other stuff is, but you have to take messy action to get anywhere. You have to get out of your comfort zone. So anyways, do promoters of capitalism play on your emotions? Do they use high pressure tactics? Yeah. Have you ever job hunted? Think of how stressful that is. And like, you have to sell yourself to them so that you have the privilege. Oh, sorry. A little bit. Superviz is making me a little gassy. You have to sell yourself to them so that you have the privilege of working at their stupid fucking company. And so you can work at their freaking company in a cubicle for like a terrible salary. In my opinion, both are cults. Those are cults. Capitalism, 9-to-5s. Why don't you go through the BITE model that you guys love to talk about so much? Ask yourself if capitalism results in behavioral, informational thought, and emotion control. I think the answer is obviously yes. I mean, the whole American dream, that's like one big play on your emotions. So is that indicative of a pyramid scheme? Or are pyramid schemes just able to leverage these tactics because capitalism already normalized them? Okay, drop a pyramid in the chat. Okay. Number 4. Can you guys see the screen? Can you see this thing that the FTC sent me? The final sign is that distributors buy more products than they want to use or can resell, just to stay active in the company or to qualify for bonuses or other rewards. Now, this one's a little bit more out there, so stick with me, but this is exactly how like investing works. Just like MLM distributors, invest in super fizz so that we can stay active in the company and qualify for our ranks each month. Regular people are pressured to invest so that they never lose their rank in society, right? If you can consistently, invest in retirement stocks or retirement in I cannot talk. Oh my God. You guys, I am a mess today. It's been so bad. If you can, what was I saying? If you can invest in like a retirement account or stocks, it keeps you from dropping in rank, the rank of being poor. Do you understand? Your money works for you, right? As people love to say, it's the same thing, right? And like in the stock market, when you invest, someone above you is profiting off of your willingness to invest, right? Also, like, think of how people use credit cards. We say like, oh, put your monthly expenses on this credit card to keep your credit score good, right? Because if you don't use your credit cards, you'll drop ranks on that little credit circle of death. Oh, I put groceries on this point. I put groceries on this card because it gives me points. That's just the same as ranks. It's like a little game. Also, they say that, pyramid schemes have like a high startup cost. What else has a high startup cost? Starting a business, going to college, a career, right? It's going to cost you everything. It's going to cost you your time. Stop trading time for money. Okay. I would love to hear your thoughts on this love note from the FTC. I mean, do you think capitalism is basically just a recruitment-based pyramid scheme? What do you think? I literally have to go, though. I'm about to shit in my pants from all this super fizz. Within capitalism, there is a constant desire to get ahead. We leverage the powers of psychology and philosophy and warp it into some weird self-help bullshit. In my opinion, self-help is a voluntary form of brainwashing. We brainwash ourselves into believing that if we just change how we think, we will finally fit the mold of who we're supposed to be. And who we're supposed to be isn't based on our own personal ambitions. No. Rather, it's based on what society needs us to be. And in this time and place, that looks a whole lot like a person who's endlessly productive, effortlessly efficient, and who would rather waste their life grinding than die poor. This desire is not born out of vanity, but out of insecurity. We aren't just stupid, greedy creatures, okay? The way our social hierarchy sorts us out, it puts people in the lower part of the pyramid in desperate situations. Situations where they can't afford to eat, or pay rent, or even feel happy because they don't have the basic things that they need. And I think it's important to validate the fact that this situation can be very traumatizing. And when people are traumatized and insecure about money, they feel the need to climb up that pyramid so that they never have to feel sad or hungry ever again. Even after they have more money than they know what to do with, every investment keeps them that much further from ever re-entering poverty. So when I say that I think capitalism is a pyramid scheme, I mean that like a pyramid scheme, capitalism requires a certain level of faith, similar motivations, and a willingness to brainwash yourself into believing that it can work if you work.
And it's dependent on you. Like, if you want to be the CEO, you can be the CEO.
And much like capitalism, a pyramid scheme can be profitable, but if you look at the numbers and see the wealth disparity, it becomes clear that it only works out for a select few. And like pyramid schemes, everyone seems to believe that they have what it takes to make it to the top. But what you're made of rarely matters. Hard work does not always correlate with success. Timing and privilege are much better indicators of success in both pyramid schemes and capitalism. Meanwhile, when you hustle in an attempt to make it to the top, you're doing a whole lot of work to make someone else wealthy, be it your upline or your CEO. So, what can we do when someone realizes that capitalism is just one big exploitation? What if someone realizes that their wage is more or less the same as it was 5 years ago, but the company they work for has quadrupled in size? What if someone has sacrificed everything for their career only to be laid off due to a pandemic? In my experience, people having these harsh realizations about capitalism go down one of two paths. The first is that you see the system for what it really is: exploitative, cruel, and full of false promises. Maybe you do some reading about alternative economic systems, socialism, UBI, anarchy, libertarianism, communism, whatever. You might look inward and reevaluate what life means to you and how you want to spend your time. And I'm not gonna lie, this can be a dark path. It can be a lonely process, and there are simply no quick solutions or easy answers. This radicalization can lead people to become jaded or apathetic, and they might become total doomers, or they might start viewing life as completely absurd. Everyone's journey might look a little different, and I hope if you're experiencing these feelings, you at least have a couple open-minded friends or family members you can speak with, because it can be really isolating. If you couldn't tell already, this is the anti-capitalist path. However, there's a second path people could go down after, being confronted with some of the harsh realities of living under capitalism. They might realize that their dreams aren't panning out. And in that time, people are vulnerable, especially financially and emotionally. And if you are experiencing that struggle and someone comes along and tells you they have an amazing solution to your problem, you might be willing to listen, especially if you don't want to feel yourself going down that dark path.
And let me tell you, when I show you how to make this, you're going to have a little bit of confidence in you, right? So don't tell me you can't afford it. Don't tell me you don't have the money. By the way, there's a payment plan.
We saw this online with the quote alt-right pipeline and other, radicalizing groups and stuff. And this is also where pyramid schemes come in. Because it's no longer just an investment scam where you play the airplane game and try to get rich. Here you are feeling defeated and lost, lonely, broke, and someone with a sort of weird alternative lifestyle comes along and tells you, I used to be like you, but now I'm so happy. Come join my team. We know how you're feeling, and we're here for you, I have an amazing protocol that can fix all your problems. Plus, we're all making great money and living our best lives. Also, it healed my health conditions, made me a better mom, made me more beautiful, and made me one with the universe. Who wouldn't be tempted to sign up for something like that? I don't blame people who go down that second path, because honestly, who wants to be a sad, broke anti-capitalist who thinks too much about stuff, huh? It can be pretty tempting to just shove all those feelings aside and explore more prescriptive options. Please remember that everyone is vulnerable to these schemes, including yourself, okay? And if you've fallen for one, it doesn't mean you're stupid or bad. One of the best things you can do to avoid being scammed is to educate yourself. Watch documentaries on how people get scammed, watch anti-MLM YouTube content, read the FTC articles. Sadly, so much of this isn't regulated very well, and people lose money all the time. Please know that these groups prey upon any vulnerability. These vulnerabilities include loneliness, needing money, wanting to feel healthier, feeling depressed, or recent trauma like losing a loved one. We are all vulnerable in some way, but just be wary if something sounds too good to be true. Ask your family, do some research, and demand clear, concise answers from the person pitching it to you. Seriously. Because they are tricky little bastards who have skills to get around answering questions. In conclusion, capitalism and/or pyramid schemes are not the solution. A lot of people say, capitalism's bad, but it's the only option we have. And to that I say, please try to grow your imagination, okay? Civilizations have existed for thousands and thousands of years, each with unique economies and cultures. With all of our technology and science and resources, we have no excuse for the high levels of poverty and hunger in the world. John Steinbeck said that socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as an exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Are you defending capitalism because you envision yourself as someday being rich? And I understand if you don't agree with me on everything. I get it. I have very polarizing opinions. But please refrain from bootlicking in my comments section. Okay, thanks. If you've made it this far, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and I would love to have a constructive conversation in the comments below about this topic, even if you disagree with me. Are you currently in an MLM? Are any of you anti-capitalists? And if so, was that journey dark and isolating, or did it end up okay for you? Do you have any helpful advice for people who might be in that situation currently? One last thing is that if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you shared it. I put a lot of hard work and thought into this one, and I feel like it's an important topic. If you have any suggestions of other YouTube channels or podcasts that talk about this overlap between capitalism and scams, please drop their name below because I'm running out of content to binge. Of course, a huge shout out to my patrons for their continued support, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.